Hello and welcome to the Brothers Slim, where I've got some crazy hair going on today, where we are reading some Into the Unknown updates. Today is a pretty cool one, I believe. I skimmed it yesterday, a little late getting to it, but such is life. Delving into Dungeons, update 76 of Kingdoms Forlorn. Hello, everyone! Are you enjoying these first days of spring? Here in Poland, March can be quite treacherous in terms of weather. One day it's sunny, then it starts snowing the very next day. It's pretty easy to catch cold these days, so be careful. We've also had some time to unwind at the start of March and participate in an in-office get-together where we played board games. Fun stuff. I actually don't know what game that is. Maybe Zombicide? Maybe? Looks pretty cool. Nachos and chips. Good times. Good fun. Now, without further ado, in today's update, we'll showcase the two dungeons of the 10,000 Succulent Fears expansion, Weiskaiser Foundry, and the Bog Maze. I think that's maybe a little bit more correct. I don't know. We know you've been waiting for them. Yeah, there's been comments on it for sure. Also, just as an aside, love the staff photos and stuff. Very cool, very cool. Okay, so TTSF Dungeons. One more aside. TTSF / 10,000 Succulent Fears expansion is a bloody mouthful. Dungeons in the TTSF expansion, both designed by Marcin and expanded by Kaj, I actually don't know who Kaj is, are special in the sense that they aren't available for you to explore from the get-go. In order to access them, you will need to find them first. It'll most likely happen organically during your gameplay. There are various plot hooks that lead you there. A single clash won't be enough to complete a dungeon either. Sometimes you may be required to struggle through 3 or even 4 clashes in order to locate the boss monster. The enemies you face can also vary greatly in terms of difficulty. If anyone can remind me, are clashes like the multiple minion fights that you do on the big boss board, or are clashes that little separate smaller board that are supposed to take less time? Because if they're like the fully fledged fights, that's a huge amount of gameplay, which is great, but also a huge amount of time too. Smaller ones, I don't know how long they take, so I can't really comment on that. Although it won't be easy, venturing into these dungeons is well worth it. They offer great prizes for those who succeed, which can be used in other post-game content and provide their own special storylines. There's more to them than meets the eye. So storylines, yep, heck yeah, that sounds great. Dungeon stories, awesome. Way back in the day when I played WoW. Like stories, whatever in those games, but man, dungeon stories, I would always love the narrative behind them. So yep, that sounds great, especially with the classic ITU flair for storytelling. Also, looking forward to more word on what the endgame content is, the post-game. I don't know if they've really delved into it too deeply. Weiskaiser Foundry, owned and operated by the Weiskaiser family, a noble name from the machinated state. This massive factory complex is once the pride and joy of the industrialized Eisenwald, the jewel in the crown of the alloyed court. The Weiskaisers rose to prominence and influence in the city, producing wonders of steel and brass. The factory was the only source of automail beyond the border of the machinated state, a prized commodity among the kingdoms. King Eidelhart claimed it was a product of the Weisenwaldian productivity and steel fused with Weiskaiser ingenuity. What a sentence. The machinated state called it theft of their concepts and innovations, and some called it dark magic, unnatural and sinister. The foundry was lost shortly before the coming of the deep fog, when the massive earthquake known as the Tremortrial split open the earth and cast entire buildings and districts down into the dark underrealm of the Schwarzreich. Now, after the deep fog has lifted, people are venturing down into the abyss beneath Eisenwald and claim to have found an old, abandoned factory. Only, it's no longer dormant, and the pounding of hammers echoes through the depths like a gargantuan primal heartbeat, sending shivers of fear coursing through any that hear it. And here we have a map of what I believe, from looking at it yesterday, is the dungeon. Okay, so these are enemies you can face within, I suppose. So I think that's a rat wolf there. These are the armored skeletons. I think this is the Night Eater. We got the big crab claw pincer hands. Panzer ghosts, I believe. That is another boss. Very cool. So gridded map, and looks like you. Okay, yeah. Let's read it. The Weiskaiser Foundry Dungeon is played on a special board that acts as the Foundry map. The empty square spaces represent the various facilities of the Foundry. When you first start out, only the center facility will be available to you. The rest must be unlocked first. As you can see, you move along the horizontal and vertical lines of the board, 1 or 2 per round. However, you're not the only one wandering around the Foundry. If you end a round in the same row or column as a monster token, that monster will start moving towards you. And of course, if they catch up to you, it will lead to a clash. So we'd advise you to be sneaky. Pretty sure a clash is an actual fight. So these do kind of remind me of almost like MMO style raids where you better buckle up and be spending like 4+ hours doing it kind of thing. Okay. In order to reach the heart of the Weiss-Kaiser Foundry and uncover its secrets, you will need to find 3 foundry keys. This can be done by exploring the foundry map. The keys will be spread randomly across different facilities. To grab a key, you'll also need to pass a challenge, such as a virtue test or an encounter against a unique opponent that can only be found in the Weiss-Kaiser Foundry. Love that, so special rules for fights, that's sweet. If you fail to gather enough keys, it doesn't mean a game over, but the foundry will become much more dangerous for you to navigate. New doors will open while others will close, but the monsters inside the foundry will be much more aware of your presence. No matter how the game will turn out for you, the Weiss-Kaiser Foundry will surely be an exciting experience. So I did read this quickly yesterday, and enormity rules, anybody. So chicken and egg kind of story. What came first, the Weiss-Kaiser Foundry or enormity playtesting? Because I'm sure enormity has been in the works behind the scenes for quite some time. So yeah, I'd be really curious to know about that. Did this come from like, these rules we're making for the sci-fi game could work really good in this, or we really like these rules, we want to make more with it. Very curious. Okay, so that is that. Ooh, I really like this art piece. Old man, swamp man kind of vibe with a wicked beard and a lovely nose lip. Bog maze. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was just like hearing it in media from like Elden Ring and stuff, but freaking swamps. Been super keen on swamps lately in TTRPGs and board games and stuff. Big fan. Bog maze. Breck-Fallen, the capital city of Uchabant, was once a thriving metropolis, the fusion of the port city of Fallen and Brecht, the city at the crossroads. Then the curse of drowning came, and Uchabant was engulfed by an endless swamp, mud and slime rising to claim everything. It's kind of funny reading these. So ATO is very, very fantastical, but grounded in Greek mythology. It's funny reading this. Like it just strikes me as like such fantasy, which I don't know why. Although this is obviously very fantastical, it's never really struck me as such before. But it's cool getting like a little bit more lore and such of the setting. Okay. In the days leading up to the fall of the deep fog, the city districts of Brecht were swallowed by a deep, dark curse, an endless labyrinth of sludge and thorny vines that dominated the city and dragged it down into the swamp. A glamour was placed over the once bustling city streets, making it impossible to navigate by mundane means. The bog maze remained impenetrable until now. Some adventurers say they've uncovered the way to navigate it, and the bog maze's secrets are finally within reach. Travelers claim they've seen the roads into the bog maze, lit by mud wisps, tempting them to stray from the path and be lost forever within the labyrinth. Some say they've seen monsters roaming its passages, beasts and devils of mud that shamble about like real creatures. And some say they hear the wailing of the hag of Brecht, the Mithril Madness herself, deep within the maze. It was she who created the bog maze and hides at its heart like a spider in its web, waiting for the next unwary adventurer to come her way. Finding your way in the bog maze requires extraordinary means, and entering unprepared would most definitely mark your early demise. Thankfully, there is a way to navigate the maze, with the help of an artifact known as the Adderglass, which you'll be able to obtain on your travels. The Bog Maze Dungeon is played on a printable sheet attached to the end of the TTSF Codex. It will also be available for download on our website later. So Bog Maze, little thing to know what we have. Fairy Ring, awesome, they're keeping that. Young Devourer Dragon. Oh, it's cool, that dragon's in the Bog Maze. Oh yeah, but it's this expansion, that makes sense. Cool, Saints, Princesses, Fairy Ring, Rest Points, Living Brush. I also love that they do stuff like this for like no peeking or secret card decks like Blasphemy, no peeking, heresies, don't look. Love it. Okay, it's interesting that this is just a literal maze, but still cool. Note that the majority of the maze has been blurred out. This is to assure that the dungeon remains spoiler-free. One of the core mechanics of the bog maze is to not memorize the paths on the sheet. There are many traps, boons, monsters, and other such things you may encounter while venturing into the maze, and memorizing it would make such things less exciting. I mean, it's easy to ask that, and I, for one, would definitely not remember anything from the maze. Not much, at least. But I'm sure some people are going to have a hard time not doing that. Your position inside the maze is denoted by the Adderglass token below. The red arrow indicates your current position, while the narrow peeking window, too, is in the field of view of the party. You might have noticed that the token itself is quite large, and this is because one of its functions is to obscure your vision. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Curious, I wonder if it's supposed to be blurred or something. So Marson edit. The Bog Maze is insane. It's practically a new game of KF in itself, and it's the first step into realizing what I wanted for ATO raids all along. Small comment, but I think that's huge. So during the original Aeon Trespass campaign, I think it was a stretch goal for like ATO raid content. So there was the Nestus Theater, which we got. I think we reached the stretch goal for the raid thing, but Marson decided not to include it just because it wasn't ready. So really cool that we just get the small comment that like, ATO raid content is still in the minds and is perhaps one little step closer to becoming fruition. Again, it's the kind of thing that I would love to see, but gameplay-wise, me and the boys, when we have done like a big long session of play, like we really haven't gotten any further or done much more than we usually would. And so if it's a whole bunch of challenging fights and stuff, I don't know when we'd ever do it, but it'd be really cool to see. And might be the kind of thing where if there's story content for it, I might just kind of MacGuffin the way through gameplay and just do the story. Updated rulebook. Some of you may have already noticed, but at the end of February, we updated the Kingdoms Forlorn rulebook on our website. If you're part of our official Discord, you probably saw the announcement as soon as it happened. Speaking of which, if you haven't joined yet, now is the perfect time. We're incredibly proud of how our Discord community has grown, giving players a dedicated space to discuss the game, ask questions, and interact directly with us. Plus, every now and then, some interesting new things pop up exclusively there, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. So, if you haven't already, you can join in the fun by following this link. Chicken Night! Production update. We'd also like to provide you with some insight on how things are in terms of production schedules. We're glad to say that we're staying on track with our internal deadlines. The mass production of Kingdoms Forlorn will begin soon. You can expect lots of photos straight from the factory next month. Very exciting. Also, Marcin will be flying to China at the start of April to personally supervise the start of the production process and make sure everything proceeds smoothly. Mass production of the games were seen to last until the end of May. Afterward, the copies will be picked up and sent to delivery hubs, where they are expected to arrive by the end of July. At that point, the last mile shipping will begin immediately, so you will start to see copies in the wild at the beginning of August. BTW, this is a timeline for US/EU. Our Asian and Australian backers will get their games even sooner. We're almost at the finish line. KF, GameFound, last call, start. For those still considering a copy of KF, this is your heads up. We're getting close to the end of production, and with that, the Pledge Manager will be closing. The production runs have been finalized for months, and as we move towards fulfillment, what's left in the Pledge Manager is simply what remains. If you're planning on grabbing a copy, now is the time. Because once it's gone, it's gone. We'll be shutting down the Pledge Manager around the end of production, so don't wait until the last minute. Secure your copy while you still can here. Not gonna lie, a few updates ago when they showcased the pre-production copy and like just how freaking gorgeous it looked like, I haven't felt board game FOMO in quite some time, or crowdfunding FOMO, I should say. And I did look at what it would cost to purchase, and too much money for me. So while I don't regret canceling my pledge, a little bit of me still kind of does, because it looks so gorgeous. I don't have the time to play it. It would sit on the shelf, and I might paint the minis. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, just awesome art. We've seen this many times, but it's so good. Pledge Manager for Enormity. This looks... Okay, we'll read this short. Pledge Manager for Enormity. Big news! We're launching our very own Pledge Manager platform. After months of development, we're excited to take full control of the pledge management process. Launches on March 27th, so next week. We're currently in the process of recruiting beta testers, so if you'd like to take part in the early testing, now's your chance to check it out. Check out the Eno announcements channel. And yeah, lots more details on the Enormity update, which I also covered in the last video I did too. A look back. As we near the final stages of production, we wanted to take a moment to share something special with you, a selection of concept art from Kingdoms Forlorn. Of course, the designs have evolved in different directions since then, but can you recognize the characters? So I looked at these really quick. Big fan of the art, that's for sure. This has got to be the Toe Dragon. It's got to be. Looks slightly more almost like crab-like here, which is pretty cool, but with the Toe Dragon that they landed on is phenomenal. This has got to be the Bog Witch. It kind of gives me Swamp Watcher vibes from Kingdoms Forlorn in this art. So some good changes there potentially, but I do really like the snail shell on top. King Laid Low, can't remember the name of the king, but I think the art that they went with instead, or the direction they went with instead, is exponentially better, but still really cool to see. And that's it for this month. See you on April 30th. Fun, fun, fun. Yeah, good update just for fun because I did leave a comment. Oh yeah, no answer there. But I am very curious about that. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the Brother Slim. Bye.